Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. And boy is part 6 going to be a fast one. I didn't realise there was so little left, but I'm going to whiz round these quite quickly. Most of what you're going to see now gets to stay anyway. That's Cattleya maxima up there. I believe it's a upland type because it is quite small compared with how big they do grow, and it's the lowland type that turns into whoppers. Anyway, that growth in the centre with the sheath on the top, that was the previous growth. The latest growth is the tall one up to the left. Now that's having a bit of trouble on the mount. So the only thing I'm going to do with that is once I see oh, there's another new growth down the base there. Yay! Those new growths are pushing roots, but they don't seem to do so well. I need to look that up. I need to find out how that grows, where it grows and things like that, because it might not be suited to a mount. You know, it might be one of those that comes from, you know, misty type of things, montane forests, which means its roots would have a lot more humidity around them than they would get on a mount. Also, that moss on that mount's been on there a hell of a long time. That may even be the problem. So it's either going to get remounted or potted. One or the other, haven't decided yet. Coming soon. And in my other hand, this thing doesn't look like it's long for the world, but that's Dendrobium delacourei. Now, I thought that was dying. You see that new growth on the end? The leaves have gone. That new growth is hanging in there, and there's a tiny little new growth on the right hand side there. But having seen pictures of this from other people, it seems to be one of those that is totally deciduous. In which case that new growth might not actually be dead, it might just be doing its thing. But to me it looks an incredibly weak, feeble dendrobium. And you know me and my dendrobiums, they normally grow like rockets, and that one isn't. So I'm not quite sure what to do with that, but because of what it is, it'll get a chance, it'll get time. Oh, full stretch. That is, I've forgotten what it's called, but I don't think that's long for this world. I think it was a BLC or a BC, something like that, and it was Golden Mule Orient or something or other, and it's failing. The new growth there has got very little backup, and it's not pushing roots. It's decided to sulk. Now, whether that new growth can hang in there long enough for it to unsulk itself and get some roots out, I don't know. But it's got smashing blooms. I'd like to keep it, but I'm not keeping it if it stays like that much longer. It's just not long for this world unless it bucks up its ideas. Oh, while I'm stood on a perch, these two here are my Rhynchostylis giganteas. I've got two. Yeah, and they live in open baskets with quite chunky media. Their roots do like a lot of air. They also like quite a bit of moisture, so I wanted to get them in a place where I could chuck water over them and get them really wet and really hydrate the roots, but then they dry fast, and an open basket does that job. Even though I've got two, they've never bloomed, so they both get to stay at least until that point, and then we'll see what happens after that. Oh, this is making the arm ache. I think it goes without saying all the Vandas are staying, and so does my Rhyncholalia glauca, simply because it's a good sized plant and it looks like it might bloom. I think it will in the next season, so it gets to have that chance, obviously. What else have we got that lives up in the gods? Oh, this thing's not doing so well, don't know why. I don't know whether I filmed this last time round. This is Sophronitis coccinea, which I think has now been renamed Cattleya. That messes things up. That particular species contributes to many, many SLCs and SC Cattleya types. Well, if the Sophronitis bit gets reclassified as Cattleya and you've got an SC, you've now got a CC, so you've just got a Cattleya cross. It sort of takes the fun out of it. Anyway, although this is pushing out new growth, it's not pushing out roots. It's having a little sulk, a sulkette. Yeah, sulkette. But it needs to buck its ideas up. I don't want to lose the plant, love the blooms. But for some reason, it's not doing as well as it once was. And again, this could be down to me thinking that moss on a mount lasts forever, and it doesn't. It does eventually start to break down, and then it's not really doing its job anymore. So that's due for a remount, possibly in a pot, but highly unlikely. It'll probably just get remounted with less moss this time and see if it'll start pushing roots. It's not a bad plant, I suppose. Got a bit of scale earlier in the year. Let's get rid of that. Up we go. What else we got up in there? Let me get this down because I don't know whether I filmed it. I did say I've got Masdevallias tenuifolia, and I've got a huge big basket full, and I said the one on the mount is the one I'm going to keep. That's why. Look at all the new growth on that. That loves its mount, but I think more than its mount, what it loves is being up there in the roof, as opposed to buried right down there in a basket. So to keep this and get it to bloom, it does need quite high light. You're looking at Cattleya type light, but don't do it all at once. Don't take it out of the dark and put it in that light, or you singe the poor little thing. Do it gently. If you're going to acclimatise, do it gently. But this one is growing at a phenomenal rate because of where it is, and the fact that it's mounted is almost irrelevant. So obviously that's the one I'm keeping. I may keep a bit of the other one, but I'm expecting most of those new growths to bloom. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, heading up towards 20 new growths on that, all of which are capable of pushing out a bloom. So in theory, that could be a smasher when it decides to bloom. I forget what time of year it does it, but when it does it once. It's never bloomed. Woo! There we go, another blooper. Luckily it had a soft landing. I don't think my Phalaenopsis dendrobium would like to be classed as a soft landing, but yeah, soft landing, nice bouncy springy one. I'm gradually clocking up some bloopers, aren't I? Somebody suggested I should do a bloopers video. The trouble is, although it doesn't look like it lately, but then I have been doing a hell of a lot of filming, I don't do that many. I tend to do my vids in one take. If my mouth gets tied, tough, you have to live with it. I just carry on. There's very little that I need to edit out. There is some language sometimes that I'm not prepared to leave in. There's a little gap where I take that out. But most of the time I just leave it in. It's a bit of fun like that. Yeah, to try and gather them all together would be fun, but they're spread out over about 180 videos, and I'd have to watch them all to find them. We'll see. That sounds like too much like hard work to me. We saw this in the Blooms in the Sunshine vid, so I don't need to go over that again. Harveyanum we've already done. That's going nowhere. What else have we got lurking up on high? It's mostly Tolumnias. Oh, I'll get that down and put it with the others, and we can just do those. I filmed the Orchids Alicei, the biggie, but I may have missed the little ones. That's my 3 little ones. That's Fastuosa. That has a flower spike. I like my Orchids. None of these are going anywhere, and I probably will get more. Well, I didn't expect the heater to come on with the door wide open. Perhaps my lounge is cold. This one's doing really well. This is the one I can never say properly. Mr. Sidii, and that's Mystic type Mr, not Mr. and Mrs. type Mr. And the other one hasn't got a tag on, and I've forgotten for the life of me what it is, so I'll have to put a pop-up. But, you know, that is 2 good plants on there, and it was sold as 1, but when I unpotted it to mount it, there were 2. Bonus! Yay! So that's my 3 smaller Orchids. And why is that one up in the roof and those 2 aren't? Because those 2 don't like bright light, and that one does. So they're not in the same place. I'll put it back in a minute. This strange Coelogene, which just started to grow and then decided to stop again after a year, that's Flaccida, and that does have very nice scented blooms. I'm not quite sure what the hell that thing's doing. It pushed out that tiny little new growth, and I thought, yeah, at last, it's growing. And then that new growth decided to start dropping its leaves, whereas the older bulbs haven't. and it does have some sort of shoot sticking up the side, so whether that's another new growth or not. But I want to give that one a chance, even though it doesn't look much, so that will get to stay. All the hanging dendrobiums will get filmed when I set them up. I had a bit of a one of those things. Have you ever heard the expression tempting fate? Now, in the true definition of fate, you can't possibly tempt it, can you? Think it through. So I suddenly had one of those moments where I got halfway through the day, I got my car repaired, they finished at lunchtime, so I went and got it and got back home again. And it suddenly dawned on me, it's the 6th of January and you're not supposed to leave your Christmas decorations up after that. It's bad luck, apparently. So, not wanting to tempt fate, although that is a bit silly, I decided to take them down. And I've run out of time to do my dendrobiums in their rest situation. That'll have to be tomorrow now. This one definitely gets to stay. That's a Coelogene and it's Fimbriata, and it actually bloomed not that long ago, and that was the first ever Coelogene bloom in my grow room. So the fact that it's capable, it can stay. It's not taking up any room. I've got stacks of hanging space, and this is a strange one. This came from Rachel. This is a Rodriguezii. Now, I've got a feeling that was a Cattleya once and somebody decided to put their name to it. But it's Liana, and it was a present, an unexpected present, and it's growing. So I want that on an interest basis because I haven't got a clue. I've never heard of it. I haven't got a clue what really to do with it, apart from the fact it looks Cattleya-like. So that's how I look after it. Now, it's not up in the brightest light at the moment because it was a new plant. I wanted it to get established on that mount and get that new growth mature before I start doing any heroics with it. So it's got some nice roots attached now. I think when it starts to push its next new growth out, hopefully in the not too distant future, I'll start acclimatizing it to a bit more light. Yeah? This monster here is Rose Pixie Pinafore. It's 3 plants. It was in a repotting video, which turned out to be a mounting video in the end. It's got some good new growths coming on it, and even though it's 3 separate plants, they might not all make it. The main one will, and I want to give it that time because I believe that's going to take over that mount. This gets to stay. This is Maxillaria sophronitis, I believe. Yeah, sophronites probably. It's got ES on the end. But that's got a couple of little buds coming. This just blooms on and off, a couple at a time. And all of those top growths are coming off soon. I'm going to get stuck down the bottom to bush it up. So we'll get that done. I'll film that when I do it. That's an unusual thing to do. What else we got up in the roof that's not a Tolumnia and not a Dendrobium that's going to rest? Oh, we got this thing. This is quite a monster actually. It's a big plant, big bulbs. You can obviously see it's a piece that just got taken off, and it has a tendency to ramble. You know, you can see the gaps between the pseudobulbs, the rhizome, is actually quite large, so it's capable of taking up quite a lot of space. Its latest growth got absolutely swamped with scale down in those sheaths. That's why they all look torn, because I opened them up to get the spray down in there. But it's doing some new roots, and we'll see what it does. It's I can't read upside down. I can't read most of the time. It's an Encyclia prismatocarpa. And I've seen the blooms, I like the blooms, we'll give it a chance. As I say, without the bugs digging into the base of that new growth, perhaps it'll do something. This one's also not going anywhere. This was infested with scale and they did quite a bit of damage, but it's recovering well. It's a Prosthetia Garciana. It has lovely pairs of blooms on it, although they do come out single sometimes. There's a lot of new growths on there. All of the new growths have got sheaths. Once it gets to that sort of size, and smaller than that, quite honestly, because I mean it was 2/3 that size last time. Once it sort of gets to that size, virtually all of the new growths are going to bloom. And once it matures as a plant, nearly every time you will get the pair of blooms, and they don't like each other. They decide to go back to back. they literally are up against each other but back to back. So one faces one way, one faces the other way. It's quite an unusual little trait. I don't think it ever has more than two, and they always come out back to back. So we've got that to look forward to. I'm keeping that. I mean, it's not in the best state because of the damage that the scale did, but all the new growth's good, you know, and gradually the leaves will fall off the older growths, and you know, we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, that's going to stay. Lives up in the roof, and everything else up in the roof really is things like Tolumnias. That's my smaller ones up there. The other ones you can only see the backs of. They're on that wire there. Oh, and tucked up in there, I won't bother getting it down. It's been on film so many times, I think it wants its own dressing room. But Dendrobium hercoglossum. I know it will be silhouetted, but that's all its new canes up there, and most of those are still growing. This is a funny one. It just keeps growing. These are the 2-year-old canes down here, and that sort of thing is a 3+-year-old cane, and I doubt if they're going to bloom anymore. I think they're exhausted now, so they can probably get trimmed back a bit, but obviously that's not going anywhere. That's one of my favourite all-time dendrobiums. Just a beautiful bloom. So that's it. That wraps up this section, really. I'm desperately trying to finish this before the light goes. It's getting dark. Ugh. Bane of my life this time of year. Not enough daylight to get stuff done. Anyway, that's part 6. As I said, there was very little in there that's definitely to go, although a few are on the endangered list. I'll see how I get on. It's mainly those two up there. You know, I mean, that is not a good Cattleya type plant. It just isn't. And that dendrobium, if my research actually shows that right, and the fact that grows new growths and then during the winter loses its leaves on those new growths, then that's actually okay. If, however, those leaves are supposed to last the following season, it's not okay. But, you know, I'm not going to know till next season, am I? When it either lives or dies and repeats the pattern. I haven't done this lot under here. This is a motley crew. As an example, that's one of my Masdevallias. That snowbird. That's not going anywhere. That just can't grow fast enough, that thing. There's another couple lurking in there. One's a good one, and one's just about hanging in there. But the one that's just about hanging in there is not actually mine. Reg tag means daughter. Let's do this over here first. There's a couple more Masdevallias here in the dark. Well, it looks like dark at the moment. That's a good one. That one is a cold grower. It's Vecchiana. It's a huge bloomed Masdevallia, and when it blooms, it's gorgeous. But it's not a cool grower, it's a cold grower. That lives right up the old mountainsides, and it's just, I don't think it's ever going to do that well for me. That one's hanging on. That's possibly got a limited life, that one. Up behind there are little seedling resrepias or kikis that are coming on. There's a couple of miniature Paphiopedilums. My Deesas, out of the 3, I've lost one already, and it looks like another one's going to go, and the other one is not that happy. I never expected them to grow well here. The only time I will get some more of this is if I can get some really big, strong plants that will tolerate my conditions, because they're already mature plants. Getting little tiny seedlings of something that's over the edge in the conditions it's living in just isn't going to work that well, quite honestly. And that's my motley crew of Paphiopedilums. I'm still on the border as to whether I'm keeping... I'll keep that one on the left hand side, because that seems to be pushing on nicely. The one next to it has a really good growth, but the old growth isn't so good. God knows what that one thinks it's doing. And that one just doesn't seem to want to survive. The latest growth is pushing on, and I've had that one a long time, and every time it pushes up a new growth, the growth behind it dies. It will not grow into a multi-growth plant. It just won't have it. I'm doing something wrong, I'm sure I am. There's the old heater firing up again. That one, is a very, very rare plant. I got that from, I've forgotten what they're called now. I got it from a specialist Paphiopedilum nursery, Ratcliffe's, there we go. The memory's there eventually. And it's one of their own hybrids, and they only had 3. All of their other seedlings failed. So that's quite a rare little plant. I'm keeping it until such time as it decides it doesn't like me. Let's put it that way round. Oh! And then along the front are my mature resrepias. None of those are going anywhere. These are growing well for me. That's a good plant. These 2 are the 2 that came from, I hope it says on the tag, I've forgotten. No, it doesn't. Drat. I'll put a pop up because I can find the information, but they've come from somewhere that you cannot normally buy plants from, and one of the vendors at a show had some of them. He told me quietly how he got them, but that's as far as that information goes. There's no crime involved, it's just that the Eric Young Foundation, see, I told you, it's all there somewhere. They don't sell plants except to the trade. And they don't do that very often, so you can't get hold of these very well because they're their own crosses. And then there's that little one up there that I've had quite a while, that tiny little blooms but very attractive colours, so they're not going anywhere either. Right, now let's come back to this lot. Those are my Miltoniopsis. 2 are doing well, 1's not so good up the back there, and that one really is not so good. The only reason that stays is because it's not in the way, it's not taking up any space. Look, it's got loads of new growths on it, but they're pathetic. It's just not a happy plant. But it only stays there, it takes up no space at all. I am looking out for more Miltoniopsis, I love them. What I'm looking out for is ones like that. And when I see ones like that, I'll get some more. When I see ones like that with 2 huge flower spikes on, they can stay where they flipping are. That's how I got the not so good Miltoniopsis. Fell in love with the bloom and forgot to look at the plant. You know, I just don't do that anymore. Otherwise I end up having to do videos like this to work out what I'm keeping. So the idea is to get some good quality Miltoniopsis, mature plants, not one of these just one pseudo bulb and a flower spike nonsense, a proper plant. And when I see them, I'll get them because I love them. Fragrance is beautiful, beautiful blooms, and I love the plants too. They are a little bit different. They've got a strange, almost silvery look to the leaves, but they are a different colour, and I love them. So I will get more, but at the moment, you're on borrowed time, mate. Scruffy looking object. You can definitely stay, you can definitely stay. You're on the border at the back there, hiding. Okay, that's it for this one then. Before my legs seize up. The only other thing, I didn't go over all of my Ceramis plants individually, but all I can say about those is they are all coming out of the Ceramis at some point. And as I do that, hey presto, we get some new vids, don't we? Because I've got something to take out of the Ceramis, have a look at the roots and get them potted up in a way I'm happier with. So there's more videos to come in that arena, shall we say. Okay, that'll do for this one. Last look at Harveyannum, showing off again. This other spike's starting to open now, so that's 2. There's at least 2 more coming on behind. That's going to be in flower now for, it's about 2 weeks a spike. So that's got just over, say, a week and a half to go. That one's probably got 2 weeks to go. That one may just about be in flower as that one goes over. So with those 4 spikes, that could be in bloom for 6-7 weeks, maybe even a bit longer with a little gap in the middle. And after that, it'll start pushing more spikes out. It just does it. It's unstoppable. Well, it is for me anyway. Okay, thanks for watching this set, and we'll get back to some sort of normality once I've got my dendrobiums sorted out, which hopefully now will be tomorrow. I keep saying that, don't I? I think this time I might mean it. Thanks for watching, and happy growing into 2017. Do your best for each individual plant. Don't just chuck them all together and think they'll all do fine when they're all different types of orchids. Just think about each one. Which one should be nearest the window? Which one doesn't mind hiding behind another plant because it's a lower light type plant? Just try and have a shuffle round and get your plants in the best place you can, given the places you've got. And that's all any of us can do, really. You know, even if you've got a huge big 30-foot long greenhouse, you've still got different places within that greenhouse, and you've still got choices as to where each plant goes. I mean, if you take somebody like Wade, who actually does his own hybridizations and grows on seedlings and stuff, and then, you know, other people get to have some of them. That's an enormous grow space he's got, but there's different places. You know, there's lower sections, there's higher sections, there's back walls for mounts and things. There's larger plants, smaller plants. So whatever you've got, just rationalise, just have a look round and think, is this plant in the best place I can keep it for the type of plant it is? And if you don't know, do what I'm just about to do in some spare time and do a bit of research on the type of plant. Now obviously with your deep in hybrids, ones that have long since lost their identity and are a long way from any species, you have to give them general care for that type of plant. You can't really do much else. But you know, the closer you get to species, primary crosses, or a cross with a hybrid and a species, that will be quite close to the species. You know, have a look, see where they come from. Do they grow up the top of the mountain? Do they grow down the bottom of the tree in the dark? You know, do they grow on the ground? Do they grow on the tree? Do they grow on rocks? And just have a think about where your plants are. And do the best you can for each one of them. And that's all any of us can do. Struggle on, as they say. Thanks for watching then, see you again next time. Bye for now.